What's up, guys? Uger Squad or David here. We'll just go by names today. Um, I'm joined by, we're going to be talking World Baseball Classic. Now, obviously, just as a heads up before we start, not the entirety of all the rosters have been announced. A lot of things could change between now and the start of the World Baseball Classic. So obviously, if you're watching this right before or during the World Baseball Classic, we may not be dead on all the rosters or everything. But this is what right now on January 26th that we think is going on and to happen and stuff like that in the World Baseball Classic. So with more on that, Glenn, take it away.
All right, guys, what's going on? So, the World Baseball Classic. Let me tell you guys a little bit of why we have a World Baseball Classic. Baseball was in the Olympics, as everyone knows, and the Olympic Committee decided that people throwing balls down ice is more of a sport than baseball is. So they took the baseball out of the Olympics, and baseball was like, well, we got to do something. So in 2006, the World Baseball Classic came about. In the first year of the World Baseball Classic, Japan won. They beat Cuba. Then they did it again in 2009. And in 2009, guess who won? Japan won again. They beat South Korea. Now they decided, let's do something more of an Olympic style where we're going to do it once every 4 years, just in case the Olympic Committee decides to add baseball back, which we're hearing in 2020. That's the possibility. So, last year in 2013, when they did the 4 year thing, Japan did not win. This time, Dominican Republic, the reigning champions, and who some people say is the favorite this year, beat Puerto Rico 3-0 in San Francisco. So, the World Baseball Classic has pretty much been a tournament of the best players in the world from all across the world. A lot of Major League Baseball players attend it. Not all do. Like this year, we don't have a Bryce Harper on the USA team. We don't have a Mike Trout on the USA team. Like David said, a lot of the rosters are not final right now, but while we do think most of the best players in the world are here, Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer are not on Team USA, things like that. A lot of them don't go. There's no explaining that. I guess I always think the country is more important than just the sport itself, but that's just me. But we're going to start talking about who we think is going to win, what we think some strengths and weaknesses are of all these teams. And to start us off, we have Rob with a surprising pick of Team Canada. And we'll let Rob – oh, actually, I apologize. Not Rob. Rob won't go yet. David's going to go because he has a breakdown on the other teams besides who we think are actually going to win. So we'll let David take over. He'll tell you about a bunch of different teams, things you need to know, things of that nature. David, take that away.
All right, guys. So, like Glenn said, I've got 5 teams here to cover. The other guys each have, one, but they're going to go much more in depth, obviously, than I am. So just kind of for fun, not really by any means a powerhouse team or, by anything, but, I just did a quick little cover on Italy's team for this year's World Baseball Classic. One of the strengths they have is not the manager of the team, but one of their coaches. I guess you could say like their hitting coach for this year is Mike Piazza. I think that can help them a lot, if somebody's going through a slump or, the young Mets outfielders like Conforto or Nimmo that are playing for the Italian team. Mike Piazza could really help them a little bit with their hitting and stuff like that. Francisco Cervelli at catcher, I think that's really big. He's a really good player. Not really good like Buster Posey, Lucroy, guys like that. But, he is a very underrated catcher. He hits for high contact. He has good defense. We'll just jump over to weaknesses right away. I mentioned the young outfield of Conforto and Nimmo. Those guys are really unproven. They haven't, played, stuff like that. So we'll see how those guys do. Their entire starting infield is basically bench infielders in the major leagues. Guys like Johnny Giovatella and Daniel Descalso. So, like I said, Italy, was just more kind of a fun thing with me being Italian and stuff. So, then we're going to jump over to Mexico. Mexico, boy, for their first strength, they have a loaded bullpen. Let me tell you, they have Roberto Ozuna closing. Then, behind him, they have Oliver Perez, Sergio Romo, Fernando Salas, Joaquim Soria, Carlos Torres, just to name a few. Those are all major league 7th, 8th, ninth inning guys that can definitely come in and shut down a lot of these opposing offenses. They have Adrian Gonzalez playing first base, but on the same thing, can Adrian Gonzalez be himself, or is he going to be on the decline like this past season? Is he going to be putting up the power and the contact, or is he going to be slumping and not hitting as well as we all know he can? Um, only three offensive name, no, only three offensive players have been announced so far for the Mexican team. Um, Chris Davis, Adrian Gonzalez, and there was one other non-major league player ready for the Mexican team on offense. Yeah, they have Adrian Gonzalez. Hopefully he can hit for some contact. Chris Davis, we know, has a lot of power. Chris Davis, Oakland Athletics, Chris Davis, not Orioles, Chris Davis. Um, they only have two starting pitchers to go along with that bullpen, though, which I think is also a big weakness for them. Jaime Garcia and Miguel Gonzalez of the Orioles. That's really. It's not like, oh my gosh, we have to face Jaime Garcia. Oh no. It's not very star-studded there. So after this, we're going to jump to the Netherlands. Like I said about Mike Piazza before, Andrew Jones is one of their coaches. Not like I said, not their manager, but he's one of their coaches for the Netherlands. They have Kenley Jansen closing for them, so I think that's really big. To have one of the best closers in Major League Baseball closing for the Netherlands team. And they have a loaded infield. They have Xander Bogaerts, Didi Gregorius, Jurickson Profar, Jonathan Scope, and Andrelton Simmons. Now, where they're going to play all these guys, I don't know. They all have amazing defense. Jonathan Scope has a cannon. Bogaerts, we know, can play third from when he did that for a little bit with the Red Sox. Didi and Simmons, we know, are some of the best defensive shortstops in Major League Baseball. Jurickson Profar is probably going to end up being the odd man out. I'd say Bogaerts at third, Simmons at short, Didi at second, Scope at first. But I mean, even Jurickson Profar is a good young player. Some weaknesses for Netherlands. The only starting pitcher they have announced, and I don't know if you guys remember him, Jair Jurgens. I believe he last pitched for the Braves a couple of years ago. I know the majority of his career was spent with the Braves. I mean, he really, man, I don't know, he's not very good. And for him to be their only starting pitcher so far, that's kind of scary. And along with pitching, they have no bullpen besides Kenley Jansen. That's, again, one of their only guys announced. So, and no outfielders have been announced. So, they could always maybe try to put Profar in the outfield or one of those guys in the outfield from the infield. But no outfielders have been announced for this team. Those infielders, Jansen, Jair, Jurgens, that's basically it at this point. So the Netherlands, not looking too great. Now another team, like Glenn said earlier, that got beat in the finals in the last World Baseball Classic, Puerto Rico. For strengths, I put Yadier Molina and Carlos Beltran are returning to this team with some experience from that last team. Yadier Molina is probably still the best defensive catcher in baseball right now. He can hit. Carlos Beltran is good. We all know what Carlos Beltran can do. And they're another team with a very young infield. They have, and a good infield, might I add. They have Francisco Lindor, Carlos Correa, and Javier Baez. I see this playing out as Correa at third, Lindor at short, and Baez at second. But, I mean, any of those guys can play shortstop, but I don't see any of those guys being able to play third. So, and I think that's why Correa goes over there, because originally that was the plan for the Astros, was Correa at third, Bregman at short, whatever. But yeah, so that young infield is good. Those are some big names there. Weaknesses for Puerto Rico. There's only been one starter announced so far, and that is Seth Lugo of the Mets, who's another young, unproven guy. They really don't know what they could get out of him facing an offense. Like 10 piece has been announced as of yet. And Beltran is the only decent outfielder that's been announced, but can he play every game in the outfield I think is the real question. Is he going to be injured, or is he going to be able to play every game in the outfield, or are they going to have to DH him some of the time? Because I personally think they're going to have to DH him, and they're going to have to find some other people to throw out there in the outfield. Um, and for me, last but not least, we got Venezuela, who I think is, after the Dominican Republic and the U.S., has to be the next best team in terms of, who we're looking at here and who can really make an impact in this World Baseball Classic. So, strengths, I'm going to start right away with the actual manager position. This isn't a coach, like I said with Mike Piazza or Andrew Jones. This is their manager, and Venezuela's manager is Omar Vizquel. Um, one of the best defensive shortstops of all time. Not a great like power hitter or anything, but he knew how to hit. He was a very professional player. Their starting pitching, on paper looks pretty good. They have Felix Hernandez, they have Martin Perez of the Rangers, and they have Eduardo Rodriguez, the young lefty from the Red Sox. For the eighth and ninth inning, they have Bruce and Hector Rondon. Um, so I mean it's not the best, but it's obviously not terrible. Sal Perez behind the plate, I think is really good. He's another one of those guys, one of the best catchers in the big leagues right now. Um, Here's another team, absolutely loaded infield, and I mean it is anybody's guess how this is going to turn out. They have Miguel Cabrera, Jose Altuve, Rougned Odor, Asdrubal Cabrera, Martin Prado, and Alcides Escobar. In all announced for the infield. Obviously, I'd say Miggy's at first, Altuve's at second, um, Escobar's at short. I don't know, maybe DH Rougned Odor, put Prado or Asdrubal at third. I mean, you could really do anything at this point, but I think Miggy's a lock at first, Altuve's a lock at second. Um, but I mean, to have that many good infielders and bringing people off the bench, you could be great. Their outfield is obviously another strength. They have Adubel Herrera, Ender Enciarte, and Carlos Gonzalez announces they're like starters per se as of right now. Gerardo Parra is another outfielder for them, probably coming off their bench. Um, Three lefties though I noticed, which who knows how that's going to work out. But good speed, good defense, good arms out there in the outfield, and they have another quick strength. They have Victor Martinez DHing for them. Um, who knows how his health or will it affect his season moving forward. But, Vmart is a very professional hitter, always a very good contact guy, so we'll see. Weaknesses I put, like I said with the starting pitchers, on paper they look good, but, we've seen Felix Hernandez on the decline these last couple of years. Martin Perez and Eduardo Rodriguez are both young, unproven guys, so we never know what we could get out of them. I mean, we could see spectacular performances out of them, or we could see trash performances out of them. We really don't know. Bullpen is not good. I mean, I said they have Bruce and Hector Rondon, but I mean, those guys are by no means, wow guys, or, oh, that's going to, that ninth inning is shut down for sure. Again, this is another team, too many guys, not enough positions in the infield. Like I said, Miggy and Altuve are the only guys that are locks, I think, to be in their regular positions in that infield. Like I said, with Rougned Odor, Asdrubal Cabrera, Martin Prado, and Alcides Escobar, four guys, two positions left. I would personally give it to Escobar at short and probably Prado at third, DH Rougned Odor, and then have Asdrubal Cabrera come off the bench because of his versatility. He can play third, he can play short, he can play second. If something happens, an injury or something, he can slide right in there and fill the gap very easily. So those were my 5 teams that I just wanted to, do some quick hits on. Italy, Mexico, Netherlands, Puerto Rico, and Venezuela. With, like I said, I think Venezuela out of those 5 would be the team that I would choose to back the most. I think they have a very good team. They could compete, but that pitching, you just never know what's going to happen with them. So I believe we're going to Rob, but I'm going to kick it back to Glenn just to make a couple points if he needs to and kick it to the next person.
All right, I'm glad you did that because I honestly did not want to do that. But yeah, that was a good breakdown. Now you guys know the rosters and the situations with those teams. 2 teams that he didn't mention that me, Rob, and Vin probably won't talk about, and if we do, it'll probably be like towards the end. But Israel, I think this is their first year in there. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't understand why. I mean, it's not cricket. No offense, this is not to be unpolitical or anything like that. It's just when you think baseball, Israel is not a country you think of. I can't come off the top of my head with another country that I could think of that should be there. But I don't understand why they're in there. I don't know who's even on that team. I think they have a major leaguer, one. Um, and then Japan, a team that I'm sure Vin will agree with. They're not to ever be counted out. I know they only have one major league person on the team, but that doesn't matter because they're Japan in general. They're cultured, they're respected, they do what the coaches tell them to do. They play baseball the way it's supposed to be played. I don't care if there's a bunch of 11-year-old Japanese kids on that team. That team is something to be reckoned with because they're from Japan. That country just knows how to do things the right way. So they're a team that, if they're in the Final Four, it would not surprise me one bit. They're a two-time champion. I mean, they deserve a little love for that. And those are the only two other teams that really haven't been mentioned
Uh,
yet. That
Glenn.
me, Rob, and Yo.
Um, just because you mentioned, I real quick looked up Israel's roster. I see former major leaguer Jason Marquis as one of their starting pitchers.
Right.
I see Ike Davis in their infield, and I see Sam Fold in their outfield. Other than that, it looks like those are the only,
Team. That's why that's my
yeah,
whole point.
those are the only recognizable guys that I see on that team. So yeah, like you said, I mean, those are all bench or out of the major league guys. Israel's not going to make a big impact, I don't think.
All right, so we've talked about Japan, we've talked about Israel, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, all the teams David mentioned, and now we're going to get into the teams that we think have the best chance to win this tournament. We'll start off with Rob, who's going with Canada. No, he really didn't have a choice because we already picked the two best teams. So bear with Rob. He had to pick Canada. Here he goes.
All right. Going through Canada's roster here was actually kind of fun. I made me start drinking. They got catchers Russell Martin with a 254 lifetime batting average, and then Chris Robinson. He played some time in the major, I guess. He had a 167 batting lifetime with a home run and 3 RBIs. And then this guy had no stats. His name is John Suomi. Have no clue who he is. All I know is he bats left and throws right. Then their infielders, he got Taylor Green with a 207 batting average. Brett Lawrie with a 261 batting average. Let's see, K-O-I-O-R-S. He had no stats. Bats right, throws left. Justin Monroe, 281 batting average. Freddie Freeman, 288 batting average. And Pete Orr with a 257 batting average lifetime and 3 home runs and 4 RBIs lifetime. Then their outfielders, Michael Saunders, 235 batting average. Tyson Gillies, I couldn't find stats on him. Adam Lowen, they had him listed as a fielder on one and then as a pitcher on the other. We know he's a pitcher, but they had him listed as a fielder too. And then Renee Tosoni, I guess he had some time in the bigs too. 203, 5 home runs and 22 RBIs. And then their DH is Tim Smith with no stats. Bats left, throws left. There's a few names on there that can help Canada. Canada, Russell Martin, of course Freddie Freeman, Justin Monroe. Oh, I forgot Pete Orr. He bats at 257. Yeah. Oh, I did say Pete Orr. Anyway, Joey Votto declined to play. Yeah, Brett Lawrie, he could be semi-help to Canada. Honestly, this team looks real weak. I mean, go through their starting pitchers. I think I got most of them. Andrew Albers, 2-5 lifetime record in the major leagues. Felipe Almont, 1-6. John Axford, not a bad pitcher. 34 and 32 life career with a 3.50 ERA. 514 strikeouts. Jesse Kane, 45 and 30 with a 305 ERA. Jim Henderson, 10 and 11 with a 3.61 ERA and three strikeouts. Sean Hill, 10 and 18 with a 4.69 ERA and 151 strikeouts lifetime. Jay Johnson had no stats. He's a left-hander. Chris Leroy, 1 and 3 lifetime with a 6.03 ERA with 66 strikeouts. Tristan Magnuson, 0 and 0 lifetime record with a 6.4 ERA and 11 strikeouts. These other two, Scott Matheson, 1 and 4, 6.7. Jameson Taylor, 5 and 4 record, 3.38, 6 strikeouts. And then we come to the fun ones. They got Eric Gagne pitching for him and Ryan Dempster. And then the one I found the funniest was Scott Diamond. He's got a 1927 record, 4.50. But his stats for last year really made me laugh. He was 0 for 0 with an ERA of 27.00 with in one game, one inning, 0 strikeouts. Team Canada, honestly, with having some good bats there, I don't see them going very far at all, especially in the pool they're in, having to play Dominican Republic and USA. Hell, if Canada feels, or if Colombia feels good, they might even beat them in one of those games in that pool there. I don't really have much more to, I mean, Freddie Freeman, Brett Laurie, and Russell Martin, and Michael Saunders is all they really pretty much have for that team. I mean, if they're ahead and Gagne comes out of the bullpen, they might win because the other guys are just laughing so hard they can't hit the ball because he's actually playing. And that's about all I have for that.
Okay. I'll. So Rob basically just covered Team Canada. He didn't pick them to win or anything, so that was my apology. But yeah, I agree with Rob. If Team Canada was in a different pool, if Team Canada didn't have to face USA and Dominican Republic, I think they'd put up a better chance, I would say. But first, the other teams, they really don't have a shot. They do have, with Freddie Freeman and them, they have some people, but they're not going to go very far. So that was Rob's take on Team Canada. If anybody wants to add anything else before Vin goes on to the Dominican Republic, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I think one big thing with Team Canada, like Rob said, is Votto declining to play this year. I mean, he's, by far would be their best player. I think, I guess I can't say by far. Freddie Freeman has really come into his own. But Joey Votto declining to play for them because he's saying he wants to focus on Reds. So he wants to focus on Cincinnati Reds baseball. What is there to focus on? I mean, the Cincinnati Reds are going to probably be the worst team in the major leagues this year. And I mean, what is there to focus on coming from Joey Votto, so he can put up good numbers to not be traded once again? I don't know. I just don't understand it. I think he would want to represent his country and, have some fun with those guys, but that's his decision.
I agree with that. All right, so we'll kick it over to Vin. So whatever he has to say, we'll let him take it over. Okay. So you heard the DR side of it. Now we'll debate. Like once I'm done talking about Team USA, me and Vin will probably debate on USA DR, and then we'll let Rob and David jump in. But let me just talk about Team USA right now. So, Mr. Vin, 27 rings, said that their coaching was a aspect of their team. We got Jimmy Leland, a World Series champion, as well as a World Series loser. He knows the ups, he knows the downs, he knows how to manage any roster on the biggest stage of them all, and he knows how to run a bullpen. His bullpens, and you've seen when he left Detroit, what happened to their bullpen? Trash. When he was on the Marlins, when he was on the Tigers, both his bullpens had below a 3 ERA. So he knows how to manage a bullpen, which is big time for this USA team. So right off the bat, to me, Team USA has a great coach. And don't forget, our quote-unquote GM is Joe Torre. Joe Torre, as Mr. 27 Rings knows, is a man that's been in every big situation that you can be in baseball history. He's been there. He's been a freaking a coach for a World Series team. He's now with the Players Union. He's been around the block. So anybody that needs advice, anybody that needs anything, Joe Torre can be there for them too. So right off the bat, I feel Team USA has the best of the front office, the best of the coaching, and that's just the start. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes. We got, in our rotation, we got Archer, Roark, and Stroman as of right now. Now I know Chris Archer and Stroman weren't very great, but the bullpen, we've got Dyson, who throws 100 miles an hour. We've got Given, who is absolutely amazing. We've got Gregerson, he's just there. I don't know why he's there. I don't like him at all. And we've got Andrew Miller. And that some say this is the weakness of Team USA. If that's the weakest of our team, we're winning the championship. A huge asset, if these pitchers bring their A game, is Archer and Stroman. Now, if you play fantasy baseball, if you play anything, you know Archer and Stroman were in the top 5 rounds of picks last year because of the potential these men have. Did they live up to them? No. But if they pitch their A game, they are not to be touched. Tanner Roark was amazing last year. This man led the league in ERA for 4 months before Jason Hamill just came out. Not Jason Hamill, Hendricks from the Cubs just came out of freaking nowhere. But this man was great. And a lot of these other teams in these countries, they haven't seen the stuff Tanner Roark has. He mixes speeds. He has a fastball. These countries have not seen the pitches that Tanner Roark has. He can mix it up. He's great. I'm telling you right now, Team USA's rotation, if on their A game, no one's touching them. Let's see what else I got here. The bullpen. Like I said, Dyson is a gunning machine. This man can throw 102 with E. He's the White Chapman. I'm telling you right now. And not only that, it has movement. The movement on his pitches are sick. He's not even the closer. Miller will be the closer. And Andrew Miller, if you've seen him in that World Series last year, the Cleveland Indians did not lose the World Series because of Andrew Miller. Andrew Miller was one of the best relievers in baseball, and he's on our team to close out games for us. Like I said, Gregerson is he's just there. I mean, I don't know why he's there. Not that he doesn't have stuff, but he wasn't very good last year. So him being there might be, to me, the only weakness we have. But like Vin said, if we make it farther, which we will, there is an opportunity for us to bring in more people. So this is just the initial roster that we have. And to me, our weakest point, which is the guys I just mentioned, could be a very, very strong point. Now, let's get into the actual strong point of this team. The offense, by far, yes, Vin, by far the best offense in the entire World Baseball Classic. We got Posey and Lucroy to be our catchers. These are the top 2 catchers in Major League Baseball and have been for the last 3 years. They can both mash, they can play defense, they're leaders. No, and I know Gary Sanchez, but again, he's been in the league for 1 year. He's not Mike Piazza. So we got Posey and Lucroy, the 2 best catchers in the game. First base, we got Paul Goldie, one, if not the best first baseman in MLB. He's got speed, he's got defense, he's got pop. He can hit with runners in scoring position, which is huge in a series like this. He's just a straight-up beast. Second base, we got Ian Kinsler and Daniel Murphy. You cannot have a better combination of second base than the USA has. Daniel Murphy, if you've watched this man play, every situation that he comes up to bat in a big situation, he's getting a hit. And I've seen that firsthand for us in the National League Championship Series and against us last year when he was on the Nationals. Now, I know his defense is terrible, but guess what? Ian Kinsler was one of the best defensive second basemen in the league for the last 3 years. He'll come in late in the games after Murphy's already gotten his big hits, and he'll play defense for us. It's a perfect situation. And don't forget, Ian Kinsler's no slouch with the bat either. Ian Kinsler was one of the best offensive second basemen in the league last year. So, that's two great second basemen. We got Brandon Crawford playing shortstop. Besides Ayrton Simmons and a couple others, he is one of the best defensive shortstops I've ever seen, and he can also hit in the clutch. He's a World Series champion. He's been in big situations. No ball is getting through him on that side of the infield. And do you know why no ball will get by him? Because guess who he's got at third base? Another Gold Glover, another top fielder, Arenado. And don't forget, not only is he one of the best gloves in the league, he's got one of the best bats I've ever seen. He's averaging 40 bombs and 120 RBIs over the last 2 years. So, nothing's going to go by them on defense, and nothing's going to get by them when they're at the plate. Now, we're going to go to the outfield. Adam Jones, McCutchen, and Yelich. That was the original outfield. Guess who decides to, let me just make an appearance. Mike Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, is on board with us now. I'm just... Giancarlo Stanton will probably DH. Him or Eric Hosmer, depending on where Stanton plays. McCutchen in his worst year ever last year. His worst year ever. Everyone's down on him. Oh, he's terrible. Oh, my God. He's no longer an elite outfielder. In his worst year ever, still threw up 15 stolen bases. Still hit 260 in a bad year. There's some guys like Jason Bay who would take 260 in a heartbeat. 24 bombs, 72 RBIs. That's a bad year for him. And he was hurt. He was on the DL. And he still put up those numbers. That's our worst outfielder. A team like the freaking Netherlands or Japan, they would kill for an outfielder like him, and he's our worst one. Then and don't forget, he's got a sick glove. His glove has never stopped. He has one of the best ranges in the league. Him and his boy Marte. And that's our worst outfielder. Remember that. Adam Jones. Adam Jones had himself a very solid year, and this man is a leader. He's never in too much of a slump. You'll never hear, oh, Adam Jones is in a 2-month slump, because he's too good of a hitter to be in that much of a slump. Now, I'm not saying he's Mike Trout or anything, but the man is just too consistent of a hitter. He can hit for power. He can hit for average. He can steal a base. He's a great outfielder, which means, like, anything that gets to him, I know I don't really use nerd stats very often like sabermetrics, but his are always top 10 in the game because he has range out the booty. Then we got Christian Yelich out there, who is one of the most underrated players in baseball. Again, another guy who can hit for a little bit of pop, not a lot. He can hit for average for sure. He's hit 300 like every year. He can steal bases. He can hit triples. He can hit doubles. He's great with runners in scoring position. And again, another guy with a great glove and a great arm, nonetheless. And then there's Stanton. What do I have to say about Stanton? He's the X factor. If he's healthy, be prepared to see baseballs flying across the world. The world. That's how far this man can hit the ball. He can rake, and he's also got a gun. If he's playing the outfield, he's got a gun. Don't forget that. That's why he's a right fielder, because he's got a great arm. And imagine him, Arenado, and then Stanton in the lineup. Seriously, you can't pitch around this USA's offense. You cannot. You got to be kidding me. There's no way. And then, like I said, at DH will be either Stanton or Hosmer. We'll be fine either way. Let's talk about the bench. Matt Carpenter or Yelich/Stanton. Stanton's probably never going to be on the bench, but we'll just say he's there. Matt Carpenter, Yelich, Hosmer, and Alex Bergman. Matt Carpenter on the bench. Matt Carpenter's on the bench. How many teams in this tournament? Probably all of them. Matt Carpenter would be starting. Like that. Like that. One of the most clutch hitters in baseball. Rob will tell you as a Cardinal fan. And that's our bench. Our bench is better than half these teams. Not even half. 80% of these teams' full rosters, Team USA's bench is better than them. So they've got a great offense. They've got a pitching staff that, like with the DR, is the question mark. But that question mark can easily be any other team's strength. Easily. So that's Team USA. I obviously have them winning it all. Now, just let me throw a few points to Vin, because we're going to probably start arguing first. USA versus DR. I'll say this about DR. That infield, sick. There's no doubt about it. Is DR USA's number one competitor? Absolutely. But outside of Marte in the outfield, you got two DHs in that outfield. Who's going to catch the ball? You got Jose Bautista and Nelson Cruz out there. Who's going to catch the ball? Marte is going to have to cover the entire outfield to get a ball. They're pitching. Well, hold on. Wait, let me finish, boy. All right, now listen. They're pitching that they expect to repeat to win this tournament, which they won last year. Carlos Martinez and Alex Reyes. Have they been proven in big time situations yet? Now again, Carlos Martinez had 16 wins last year. Very good for a non-playoff Cardinal team. He didn't pitch in many big games last year. So him and Alex Reyes are not proven. You're trying to win a World Baseball champ. Chris Archer's been in the World Series. Tanner Roark's been in the playoffs. Stroman's been on the playoffs twice. So all of our people, Andrew Miller was in the World Series last year. We have people with experience and people that have pitched well in those situations. You guys don't. Nobody. Familia, you know what he's done in big situations? I can freaking tell you. In the World Series last year, he blew every goddamn game. Last year in the wild card playoff game, he blew that game too. So if you have this man coming in for you in a big situation, guess what everyone's going to think? Bye-bye, Familia, because you're going to blow it, because that's what he does. Now, who else you got on there? Let's see who he said here. Oh, you said DR can bring in people later on. You're like, we could bring in Francisco Liriano. Francisco Liriano. Francisco Liriano's going to be your savior. You want to talk about stats last year in the Liriano? I mean, if this was 4 years ago, I'd be terrified. But Liriano now, no. No one's scared of Liriano right now. Cueto, yes. You go get Cueto, we might have some problems because I've seen Cueto firsthand in the playoffs. He's a beast. There's no doubt about Johnny Cueto. But not Liriano. So again, and Alex Colomé. What the hell has Alex Colomé ever did besides last year? You even said it yourself. He has been, at best, a journeyman. At best. He's terrible. He had one good year last year. You're going to base a world championship roster based on a guy who had one good year? I'm sorry. When we're comparing Team USA to the Dominican Republic, the coaching, the offense, the defense, the pitching, like I said, the experience, every single thing goes to Team USA. There's not one thing the Dominican Republic can do better than Team USA. That's including speed, that's including depth, all of that. Team USA dominates in every aspect. The one thing Dominican Republic has is that they've actually won this tournament last year. That's huge for them, and they have a really good team. I'm not putting down them. They have a squad. But when it comes to comparing the USA, I mean, we just did that. USA over Dominican Republic. The experience factor for Dominican Republic in terms of winning the tournament will definitely be a factor because let's be honest, Team USA has never finished above fourth in this tournament. They're chokers. I'm sorry to say, I love my country, but they're chokers. That's what they've done that every tournament. That's a big problem. But I think this is the year with this team that they can finally get over the hump. And now we'll kick it over to Vince to combat it. You done? Okay. Yeah. So I'll be honest. Before we kick it over to David and Rob, picking apart between USA and DR, I mean, it's tough. Like, I had trouble trying to pick apart DR, and I'm sure Vin had a lot of trouble picking apart USA because they're the two favorites. The weaknesses are not very many on either team. So to me, if those two are not, now I actually, this is the thing. If David or Rob know, kick it in after. I don't know if DR and USA can meet. They're in the same pool. I don't know if they can meet in the finals. I don't know how that works. I didn't do enough research on that to know if, like, I know DR and USA can advance in the pool. I think the top two teams from every pool advance. I don't know if they can face each other in the finals. But if they can, if they're not in the finals together, and if it's, mathematically possible, if they're not in the finals facing each other, I would be 150% shocked if they're not. Because these two teams are the bread and butter of this tournament. But yeah, I don't have much else to say because you know, it's hard to pick apart these two teams. Like I said, you really can't. They're both freaking amazing. But Rob and David, if you got anything to kick in, kick it up.
Yeah. Okay. So I definitely took down a couple notes here, and I'm gonna go through all of them, and then if you guys want to touch on anything I said, just let me finish all these because I wrote down a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna say everything, but um, I'm gonna start. A couple things I wrote down with the U.S. Glenn. Okay, obviously this might not happen. What I would do personally, because you said, there's a lot of DH options, a lot of outfield options. Um, Personally looking at it, what I would do is I would have Yelich in left, Adam Jones in center, and Stanton in right. Um, and have McCutchen on the bench because McCutchen can come in and play left center. You're probably not gonna take out Stanton at any point in the ball game. Like you said, he's got a cannon. You're not gonna want to take that out. Jones, yeah, he's getting old, but a couple of years ago, I mean, arguably one of the best defensive center fielders in all of baseball. He has an arm, he has range, he can do it all out there. And we all know what Christian Yelich can do. With that in the lineup, I would honestly, it's really hard to do this. I would leave Hosmer on the bench, start Kinsler at second, and have Daniel Murphy DH. Because, like you said, he is kind of a defensive liability, but with his contact and his clutch hitting, there's no way you can leave that man out of the lineup. So, like you said, you could do Murphy and then bring in Kinsler later in the game, but for me personally, I'm DHing Daniel Murphy because you need to have that guy in your lineup. Um, if USA goes on to win the whole thing, I think without a doubt in my mind, Nolan Arenado is the WBC MVP at the end of it all. If the US wins it, which after listening to both sides, I am gonna say I think US does have the upside advantage over DR, but that's just me. Gregerson, you said, oh, why is he there, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I mean, obviously Andrew Miller's up there, but he hasn't been closing all the time. Gregerson is kind of that veteran presence in that bullpen. He's been there before. He's bounced around a lot. He's been a closer, an eighth inning guy, seventh inning guy. I mean, his stuff is still there. Yeah, he didn't turn in a good year last year, but he's there. Having Carpenter and Hosmer and Bregman on the bench. I mean, Carpenter is so versatile. Bregman is so versatile. Bregman has one of the best arms in baseball, and nobody's talking about him because he hasn't played a whole lot yet. I mean, that guy's right there with Machado on defensive wise, whether it's third, short. I mean, trust me, this guy's defense is insane. Let's see. Vin said, Andrew Miller and Dylan Betances is kind of even. I'm going to say, actually, Andrew Miller is not a lot better than Betances, but, I mean, Andrew Miller, like Glenn said, he was on the big stage last year. He pitched through the playoffs. He was in the World Series. He's got that big game experience. Betances is just kind of... he's pitched really well for the Yankees, don't get me wrong. He's probably the best non-closing relief pitcher in the game. But, I think Miller has that upside. Glenn touched on this before. Nelson Cruz and Jose Bautista in the outfield. That's two DHs. That's good, but I think, you got to have Marte, Polanco, and Ozuna run that outfield and choose one or the other to DH. And I would obviously take Nelson Cruz. He can hit for contact. He can hit for power. Jose Bautista is just going to have to come in and deal with it when he can. If they don't get Encarnacion to play first, I think Batista can definitely play some first. He's done it in the past. Maybe leave Carlos Santana on the bench because he can switch it, come in late in games, and cause some righty-lefty problems. And you could bring on Cueto, but right now, like Glenn said, Carlos Martinez, Alex Reyes, compared to Archer, Stroman, Rourke. If Archer and Stroman can pitch, I think, even to their B game, those guys are better than Reyes. But again, like you said, nobody's really seen Alex Reyes yet. His stuff is electrifying. Carlos Martinez is a great pitcher, but I don't think he's Archer, Stroman, Rourke level. But yeah, like Glenn said, both of these teams are really, really good. I think Vin is absolutely correct when saying Gary Sanchez is the X factor for this team, and I'm really excited to see what he can really do when put on such a big stage, facing some of the best players in the world. This kid looks good. He's definitely the next coming. But having Posey and Lucroy on the U.S. team, that's definitely an advantage there. They are number 1 and 2 in the MLB. There's Salvador Perez back there. There's Gary Sanchez. But, Buster Posey and Jonathan Lucroy are number 1 and 2 at catcher in the major leagues. So, yeah, I think that's all my points between those two teams. But like I said, if I had to choose one, I think I'm going to go Team USA.
I agree basically with everything you guys said. Picking between USA and Dominican Republic is way too tough because, there's so many stars there. I think what it would come down to is management and the style of management, and I think that's where Team USA comes off the top and wins it. Um, there's just too many stars on both teams to say, well, this guy's going to do this or this guy's going to do that because that's unpredictable. But what we can predict is how the style of the coaching is going to go, and I think Team USA wins it all because of the style of coaching. So out of this whole tournament, yeah, I'm going with Team USA. I don't like Glenn said. I don't know if they can meet up face to face or not, but that would be cool if they could, because that would be a hell of a finish to this tournament. But I don't think they can, honestly. But I could be wrong. That's all I got.
All right, Vin, you got any last parting thoughts? Okay. Good. That's a good point. I'm just gonna put up a couple of last closing thoughts, and then I'll pass it over to David to finish it off. Um, like Vince said, I'm so pumped to watch this tournament. Number one, I mean, I love baseball. I mean, baseball's back. There's nothing better. Number two, this is like a scouting tournament. Remember, how many times have we've seen the World Baseball Classic, and then a month later we're like, oh, the Boston Red Sox have signed Daisuke Matsuzaka from Team Japan. You know, this a lot of these players you see, MLB scouts are looking at these guys like, man, they're gonna be on our team in a couple years. So this is a scouting tournament as well as a country tournament as well as baseball. I mean, I'm just hyped to see. I don't. If Team USA loses, I'm not gonna jump off a bridge or anything like that. But I just want to watch baseball again. I'm hyped to watch good baseball again. And number two, while remember, like the World Baseball Classic only started since 2006, and while Team USA has not finished very well in these tournaments, you got to remember there was an Olympics before this, and Team USA has four gold cups. So Team USA is no slouch in terms of winning big tournaments. It's just the World Baseball Classic since 2006. You know, they haven't been very good. Remember the Ben Sheets USA teams, the Chris Benson USA. USA's always got a squad, and they're always in the top three when it came to the Olympics. The World Baseball Classic, different story because now we're using major leaguers. Back then, you used, collegiate athletes. So Team USA has always been an elite baseball program in the world, and they still are. They just got to put it together if they want to win it. And Dominican Republic is going to be their nemesis. We already know. And they're also the champions. They're the favorites because they're the champions and they have the squad. So that's all I got to say about it. Again, if no one else has anything else to say, we'll let David just finish it off, and we thank you guys for listening.
All right, so like Glenn said, any closing thoughts from anybody else? Vin, Rob, anything? All right, Rob, anything?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna throw my dark horse in there. Canada's gonna win because Gagne hit 6 grand slams in one game.
You know, and let me just say before I go on to close this out, having Eric Gagne and Ryan Dempster pitching for Team Canada. I mean, these are two guys that haven't pitched in the big leagues in, what, at least 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know exactly. But,
I think Dempster was in like 2 years ago. But,
I
right.
feel like I've been watching Ryan Dempster on MLB Network or whatever for a long time now. I mean, yeah. And, I mean, you know, what are people aren't going to be able to hit him because they're laughing at him shaking his glove again like he was a couple of years ago. You know, I mean, yeah, but he's deceiving. But can he put it together to even throw a 85 mile an hour fastball? I mean, we're gonna have a Jared Weaver type pitcher out there, and Eric Gagne. I mean, he was a great closer at one time, but there's no way he puts anything together. Like Rob said, I mean, people are gonna be laughing at him, and that's why they're not gonna be able to hit off of him.
One
Um,
last mo before one last mo. Canada, if anybody from the scouting department in Canada is listening to this, because I know everyone listens to our podcast,
yeah,
if you're listening, stop bringing your kids up to play hockey. Teach them
and
how to pitch. You need
please,
pitchers.
please
Jesus.
tie their right
Alright, I'm
hand
done.
behind their back and make them throw with their left. Just do it. I promise they'll have a better chance in baseball if they're lefty than righty. But all right, so with that being everything, that was our take on the World Baseball Classic, on the rosters that have been announced so far. Obviously, more additions can be made. But yeah, we've spent the last hour and 5 minutes talking about the World Baseball Classic. And if you've listened this long, thank you very much. Follow us on Facebook at Smashmouth Baseball for more baseball news, updates, trash talking, memes, videos. We do everything and we do it daily. So, if you guys like that, make sure to go give us a like on Facebook. There are some teams that we're looking for admins for, so, if you ever wanted to think about posting on the page or joining our podcast, you can definitely shoot the page a message, comment in the video below, your thoughts on the Baseball Classic, who you think's going to win, comment section below. Like I obviously keep saying like us on Facebook, comment on stuff on Facebook, can be about anything, even if it's not about the post. Be like, oh, hey, that podcast was really good. I like, whatever. Just do it. We'll see it. But yeah, so with that, again, that was our take on the World Baseball Classic. We hope you have a good day and your team does not. Good night, everybody.